Right, welcome back to another episode on the GSI, and you see in the last video we've got this front pipe fitted on the car. Now obviously you see the welding that was done, which is here, this little joiner section in, and we've turned it into a true 2.5 inch system now, as opposed to the 1.9 inch internal bore system that was on there from the Miltech. If you haven't seen that video, go back and check it. Now that's on, obviously I promised we're going to clean all this exhaust up, so the exhaust has to come off anyway because I've got a fresh new handbrake cable to go on, which is along there, and there's some surface rust building up on these tank straps. I've got some fresh ones, I'm going to paint them up, put them on, so just to keep it nice and clean under here. So obviously the handbrake cable goes underneath this brand new shield that we've got, and you can't get to the brand new shield off unless you've obviously took off the exhaust. And when I started the car up, there's a slight leak from the top of the fuel tank. When I checked it, I'll show you it, there's like a broken connector on the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to strip off the fuel tank off of my silver Astra, the track car that I'm stripping, and I'm going to put the fuel tank on here. So first job is get this exhaust off, which I'm going to get onto now, and then we're going to strip it down, make it look a lot fresher, maybe even paint it with some exhaust paint just to make it clean, because it obviously looks a bit janky under there and we don't want that. Right, so you just see me take off the heat shield, and you can see up here where the heat shield is removed how good the paintwork is behind it. It's actually a shame to cover it up with that giant heat shield, because I forgot how good it looked underneath it. But you can see here, this is how you get to the handbrake cable. You can see this is the handbrake cable, obviously, with the brackets. It hasn't actually been adjusted yet, which is luckily, so it's nice and loose still, so that will just pop out easily. So we're going to replace this now with that new one, and I'll show them side to side. I've already replaced this cable here, so it's nice and strong, not stretched or anything like most of them. So I'm just going to pull off this handbrake cable now and try and drop this tank down. Right, so as I said, I thought there was a fuel leak from somewhere. When I started the car up, I could smell this fuel inside the car, and I thought it was from underneath. Checked around the fuel filter, obviously the lines and everything have obviously been off, cleaned out and everything. I thought it was just a leak from a seal or whatever. Could not find it anywhere. Then I took off this tank cover from the top, and I expected it to be leaking from the top here, and it absolutely stunk from this cavity here. And then I come across the actual problem was the breather pipe, which is in there, just about to see it there. I mean, it's at the top there, you're just about to see it. You can see the fuel's been leaking out of that. You can clearly see it's been running down, and when obviously fuel evaporates, it turns white. So you can see that's where it's been leaking from. And then when I give it a little wiggle, the actual nipple, you can see there, is broken, and they are like welded into the tank itself, so you can't just replace that. So I'm gonna have to drop the whole tank down. It must have happened, I don't know when it happened, didn't even know it was broke. So I'm gonna replace that tank, the whole unit, with the one that's on the silver car. Take that one off, replace this one. It's gonna be a bit of a bugger. What it is, these pipes are very difficult to get on and off, so you have to put a lot of strain on them, and it's obviously created a crack. The fuel's leaking out of there, so I'm going to drop down this tank. Right, so both tanks are off now. You can clearly see which one come off the red car. It's amazing, because when that went on the car, it was perfectly cleaned, all properly cleaned up, but the dust and everything that's got off over the time it's been sitting there. This is the tank that just come off from my silver car, so that's all complete. Obviously this is the breather part that we're talking about, that goes up into this section here and goes up to the breather tank here. This is obviously the bit that snapped off of this tank, which is the reason why we're changing it all over. So you can see I've obviously pulled it completely off now, and that's totally knackered. So going to change a few bits over onto this tank to make one good one out of two half good ones. So you can see here this line had been joined in the past, so that one's going to be taken off and removed for a full line. I've got plenty of lines, got a couple off there and a couple of other cars, and then this filler system is going to be the one that's on the red car, so I don't have to clean it all up, because you've got nasty
clips and everything, it's all rusted off, so I'm going to have to get that one off. It's probably going to snap. I'm going to leave the actual breather on itself. I don't want to touch this. Just going to give it all a clean up. This has got a 340 litre per hour pump in it, so I will leave that one in there and just clean it all up. I didn't realise this thing's full of fuel still, so when I took it off it was a lot heavier than I thought it was. It's got about 50 litres of fuel in it. This one's got a Walbro 255 pump in it, which I'm not going to need anymore, so I'll just pull that one out. Probably stick it in another car. So we've got a nice adequate fuel pump in there now, so we're just going to get to cleaning these up so that I can get it back on the car and then put the obviously the tank cover on as well, because the track car didn't run a tank cover because they rot, and I couldn't find a good one at the time. I didn't need one, so I just removed it. So let's make a good tank out of two bad ones. Right, so that's cleaned up pretty nicely, so I'm going to let that dry off now overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to strip it all down and put all the best bits on it from both tanks. Cleaned up the filler neck as well, and it's actually come up all right. It wasn't that bad to clean up, it was just a bit of dirt, so I'll give that a clean up. And I'm going to replace these clips because they're all rusted away and nasty, so I'll probably pull that rubber pipe off, give it a clean, maybe replace it for the other one that's on the other car. And yeah, get this fitted back on the car so we can start putting it back together. So the right hand side is the handbrake cable that was on the car. There's nothing actually wrong with it, it's not sticking or nothing, so I'll save that for another car in the future, but it's just not cosmetically good enough. So you've got the one on the left here that's nearly brand new, so you can see the difference. And this car's all about being clean, so just pulled that one off, and it's obviously brand new, so it's going to have a lovely handbrake feel. So we're going to get that on while everything's off. So that's all the pump dried off and back together. See, I've changed all the fuel lines and everything. I've put a new filter on there as well, so we're ready to get this back on. I'm going to use the existing fuel filler neck as well. Just going to change over the clips. Obviously, you see I've took that one off already. So let's get this back on the car. Right, so let's get this exhaust cleaned up a little bit. You can see here, just a little bit of surface corrosion on there. Stainless steel, so that's all good. So just going to clean that up now, get it nice and shiny again so it looks better underneath the car. You can see here where it's had a section put in at the past, so that's also nice and shiny still, but this bit needs to be matched as well. Well, there you go, that's all cleaned up now. You can see that's a lot better than it was. It's not absolutely perfect because it's not a brand new exhaust system, but that's going to look a lot tidier under there. So I'm just going to protect a little bits of it with some metal polish and some very high temperature paint just to stop it corroding in the future. But I'm happy with how that's come out. You can see how well them discs work. They come out nice and smooth now. I'm not going to get to like polishing it or whether I do that with a brand new system. This is obviously a second-hand system, and it's been on a car for a few years, so it builds up a little bit of corrosion. It's not pitted or anything, it just obviously stains the stainless. It's stainless, it's not stain never. So you can see here, get that back on the car now, just going to do the rest of the sections. So to give that exhaust some protection, obviously I don't want to keep having to take the exhaust off, cleaning it up all the time. I've gave it a coat of very high temperature paint. This is a paint I use on exhaust manifolds, so it actually does never burn off. And that looks like brand new again. So obviously once you've obviously had an exhaust system that's had some sort of corrosion put on it, it's very, very difficult to get it up looking shiny. But now it's all cleaned up, nice and smooth. Look how good it looks with that paint on it. So there's not a mark in it now. It looks like a fresh system, and I'm very happy with how it's come out. So that's going to look $1 million underneath the car rather than it being all corroded like you see it before. So the underneath of the car is going to look really, really good. So when it comes to sealing these exhausts up, forget about all that crap you get from the parts stores, you know, Halfords or whatever, this Holt's exhaust assembly pastes and stuff like that. The only good ones are the ones with the fiberglass bits in it. This sort of stuff is no good at all. This is the best stuff that I've ever used. Obviously I've used everything over the years, from silicone to exhaust paste to whatever. Fire cement, so it's made by GSL. I get it obviously trade, and you can see it takes temperatures up to 1500 degrees, and it's for sealing and repairing fire bricks, fireplaces, solid fuel ovens, boilers, central heating, etc. So if you're a boiler, you've probably seen this before. And it's the best stuff I've ever used. Obviously, it just seals the exhaust up and you never have any problems, resists all the vibrations, whatever. You can even seal up V-bands with this, which I never do, but you can if you really wanted to. You can seal a V-band up with that. And as long as you ain't got a cat, obviously you don't want any of this stuff going downstream into your cat and blocking it up. So make sure if you do fit any of this cement stuff, you ain't got a cat, or you always do it downstream with the cat. Otherwise, you're just going to have a blocked cat. Another good benefit about it is as well, it's really thick. They call it cement obviously because it's like cement. You see how thick it comes out, and you can proper smooth it into the areas you want with your fingers, and you can see it sticks to it nicely and it dries really fast. Don't have to wait ages for it to cure. This cement stuff here, you have to wait overnight. This fire gun Holt stuff, you have to wait overnight. And look how runny this stuff is. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to use that for. It looks like toothpaste. Well, finally that tank's back on. That was a lot of work, especially with the amount of petrol that was in it. I didn't want to drain it all out. And you can see I've just put on a new handbrake cable as well, so that's looking mint. You can see why you couldn't get to that with the heat shield on, obviously. So I'm just going to adjust it now from inside the car. So we take the slack out of this one so it don't fall out and I have to take it all back apart and exhaust everything back off. So I'll do that now beforehand. So now let's get this back together to get the heat shield back on. A few little things, I've got some surface rust underneath there where it's been sitting so long, so I'm going to get them powder coated, like these straps, even though they look good. Just got another spare set, going to get them powder coated and a few other bits. And I think I'm going to switch over to the rear beam off of my silver car as well, because it's got black solid mounts in it instead. These got polyurethane mounts in it. So let's get this heat shield back on. So for you guys who don't know where the handbrake cable adjuster is, just to give help out, it's down there. You can see it's a 10mm nut, so use a deep socket for it, and you just literally adjust it till you've got a bit of tension in there, and you want about 3 or 4 clicks on the handbrake. So as you know, this was a brand new heat shield from Vauxhall. I don't know why they done it in black still, no idea. Just going to give it a quick wipe down because it's got a little bit of dust and that's on the back of it. And I must have peeled off the GM number that was on the back, probably because of the heat. I think it was stuck on the back here. But I ain't got the GM number for it. But if I find it, I'll leave it in the description. Well, finally, we are done. So the exhaust is all fitted up again now. Just done the front pipe up. I've done it with that exhaust gasket stuff that you can see there, that geocell paste. So that's perfect. That's going to be absolutely mint in there. I didn't go and paint this front section because it gets red hot, and it's actually pretty new anyway, so you can see it's in really good condition, so I didn't bother doing that. You can see I've done the cat back because obviously you see me clean that up, and you can see I've done it in that high temperature paint, which really goes well against the black. That's the reason I've done it. There was no way of being able to polish that, but if I get a new system in the future, I'll obviously just do a highly polished finish. So you can see how nice that looks. That's come out really well. I'm happy with how that looks. It's a lot of work for what don't look like a lot of gain, but you see how much that I had to change. Obviously the handbrake cable and everything had to be swapped out, and all that lot has to come off to do that. But see, underneath of here is pretty much finished now. That's complete. We'll never have to come apart again, obviously, unless something major happens. But that is all together now for the final time. I'm just ordering a couple of the nuts that need to go onto this, because I don't want to use the plastic ones. I want to use the original steel ones, and I'm just looking for the ones that are zinc plated, so they'll go nice against that as well. So pretty much everything under here now is brand new, or not brand new, it's really close, so you can see like subframe, everything. I've even left the stickers on a lot of stuff, so even these panels and these plates at the back, I didn't even touch up like bits of scratches from the marks that come from the factory. Just left them looking OEM. So you can see, looking really good now. I'm really happy with how that's come out. Let me know in the comments section what you think. And hopefully I'll be able to get it right up in the air one day and get underneath it properly and show you it properly, because a lot of work's gone into this. But there'll be probably loads and loads of new updates going on in the future, and if you are interested in that, join the channel, subscribe to the channel, maybe go and buy a shirt. So in the future I want this car to be absolutely perfect. The gearbox will come out just because it ain't perfect, you know, it's painted but it's not perfect, you know. You can see there it's got the bolts, even though these bolts were new, look how rusty they've got it just from sitting out and exposed. So it's like, I do want to zinc plate the bolts, but I do want to keep them original, so that's quite annoying. You can see everything is new, but sometimes, you know, corrosion gets to it even if you ain't been on the car long. So I'm going to probably get bolts for this, zinc plated bolts, just so that they look good. It bugs me just a little bit of surface rust like that. Let me know what you think of the car. I've spent a lot of time under this car, but I won't have to get under it for a long time now.